All right, let's get right into this. You know, for decades, we've all thought of vitamin A as one of the good guys, right? A hero nutrient, absolutely essential for our health. But what if I told you it has a dark side? What if, in the middle of the fight against cancer, this trusted ally is actually, secretly, helping the enemy?
So yeah, this is the central puzzle that has absolutely baffled scientists for years. On one hand, you've got lab studies where vitamin A literally stops cancer cells in their tracks. But then, you look at the real world, at major clinical trials, and some of them have linked a high intake of vitamin A to an increased risk of certain cancers. It makes no sense. So what on earth is going on here?
Okay, to really understand this, we're going to have to unravel a medical controversy that's been simmering for a long time. And believe me, the answer is so much more complex and, frankly, way more fascinating than anyone could have imagined.
I mean, look at this. The contradiction is it's stark. In a lab dish, vitamin A is a powerhouse against cancer. But then you look at these big human studies, and they seem to show the exact opposite. And here's the real kicker. We see that patients who have high levels of the enzyme that processes vitamin A in their tumors, well, they often have poorer survival rates. It just doesn't add up, right? So all this confusion led researchers down a completely new path. They started asking, what if the problem isn't the vitamin at all? What if the problem is the cancer itself? What if a tumor is smart enough to hijack this nutrient we all need and, forge it into a secret weapon to defend itself? Now, to see how this weapon actually works, first we have to meet the heroes of our immune system story, the dendritic cells, or DCs. The easiest way to think of them is like the scouts, or maybe the generals, of your immune system. Their whole job is to patrol your body 24/7, identify threats like cancer, and then sound the alarm to rally an all-out attack. They're absolutely crucial.
And the process, when it's working right, is supposed to be simple and just brutally effective. Step 1, a dendritic cell finds proteins from a tumor. We call those antigens. Step 2, it basically grabs those antigens, holds them up like an enemy flag, and shows them to your immune system soldiers, the T cells. And step 3, those T cells get activated and go on a search and destroy mission to wipe out the cancer. Simple as that. So, that brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? If our bodies have these incredibly powerful elite scouts, why do they fail so often? Why can't they stop so many cancers before they even get a foothold? Well, it turns out there's a saboteur at work.
And here it is. Meet our main suspect, retinoic acid. So this is a molecule our bodies make from the vitamin A we consume. And you have to understand, this stuff is incredibly powerful. It's like a director on a movie set, shouting orders, telling cells all over your body how to behave, what to turn into, and exactly when to act. It's a huge deal.
So, the first big clue in this whole mystery came from a really unexpected place, the often frustrating world of cancer vaccines. See, scientists were trying to figure out why this one promising therapy, a therapy that uses those very same dendritic cells we just talked about, was falling flat. It looked great on paper, but in the real world, the results were just disappointing.
And this is what they found. It's pretty wild. Researchers over at the Ludwig Institute for Cancer Research at Princeton, they discovered that the very process they were using in the lab to create these dendritic cell vaccines, the process that was designed to make them stronger, was accidentally triggering them to produce massive amounts of our suspect, retinoic acid.
So what does all this extra retinoic acid actually do? Well, it sabotages the whole operation. It's like it throws a cloaking device over the dendritic cells, stopping them from maturing properly. And an immature DC, it can't sound the alarm. It can't activate the T cells for the attack. Not only that, but it actually encourages other, less effective immune cells called macrophages to form instead. It's a catastrophic failure at the very first step, weakening the entire anti-cancer army before the battle can even start.
Okay, so the researchers realized that if they were going to prove this theory, and more importantly, if they were going to fight back, they needed a way to shut down this retinoic acid factory. They needed a very specific tool to target and unmask this internal enemy. And after years of hard work, they did it. The team at Princeton, led by a researcher named Yibin Kong, developed a brand new drug. They called it Ki-33. And its only job, its sole purpose, is to find and block the specific enzymes that are churning out all that retinoic acid. It's basically a way to cut off the supply line to the saboteur. And as the lead researcher Yibin Kang said himself, our findings reveal the broad influence retinoic acid has in attenuating vitally important immune responses to cancer. I mean, to put it simply, this was a massive breakthrough. It was the confirmation they needed. Retinoic acid was, without a doubt, a major culprit in shutting down our immune system's fight against cancer.
So with this new tool in their hands, they could finally solve the original mystery. They could finally explain that vitamin A paradox. And they did it by revealing the cancer's brilliant and kind of terrifying two-step survival strategy.
Okay, check this out. Here is part 1 of the cancer cell's diabolical plan. You see, retinoic acid normally tells cells to stop growing, or even to self-destruct. But the cancer cells? They just evolve to ignore the message. They literally become deaf to its commands. And just like that, they sidestep all of vitamin A's potential anti-cancer powers.
But that's not even the cleverest part. Here's part 2, the truly sinister twist. The cancer cell doesn't just ignore the signal, it weaponizes it. It starts pumping out huge amounts of retinoic acid into the area all around it. See, it's not trying to talk to itself anymore. It's talking to your immune system. It's creating a chemical shield that disarms those dendritic cell scouts and basically blinds the T-cell soldiers. It's a brilliant way to protect itself from any attack.
So, what does all of this mean for the future of cancer treatment? Well, it opens up a completely new strategy for fighting back. Think about it. If we can disable that chemical shield, we can turn one of the tumor's greatest strengths into its biggest weakness. And the early results for this new drug, Kaya-33, are just incredibly promising. In tests on mice, blocking the retinoic acid brought those dendritic cell scouts right back online. It dramatically boosted the effectiveness of cancer vaccines. And maybe the most exciting part, it even showed promise all by itself as a new kind of immunotherapy, shrinking tumors just by taking down that shield.
And this isn't just some theory stuck in a lab. The researchers have actually launched a biotech company, it's called Kyocera, to take this to the next level. Their whole goal is to develop these new inhibitors for clinical trials in people, not just for cancer, but potentially for other diseases that are driven by this very same mechanism.
You know, it all leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought. This entire story, this whole medical mystery, started with a simple vitamin. It just goes to show you how cleverly cancer can weaponize our own biology against us. And it really makes you wonder, right? What other secrets are hiding in plain sight, inside our own bodies, maybe even in the everyday nutrients we rely on, just waiting for us to discover them?